Hey, muy buenas tardes a todos. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. Tony, again, gracias for allowing me to get on your platform. Stories written by a current prisoner to share my stories. And before I start off, como siempre, muchísimas gracias a todos for you guys' kind words, prayers, and you guys' time. Se los agradezco mucho. Okay, now for this, I wanted to touch up on a topic, that a lot of people don't touch on. For example, sacrifices. Everything one self sacrifices for the street, the inside, and at the end, is it really worth it? Well, from the inside looking out, I could sincerely tell you, in my personal experience, it ain't worth it. But for this, I wanted to touch up on a little story that kind of hit home, where it was a little personal in that aspect that it involved one of my homeboys from my neighborhood. Now, out of respect, I'm just not gonna put his name out there. For those that are from the town or the hood, they'll know exactly who I'm speaking about. But anyways, this was back in the '90s. I was already busted when this occurred, but it was heavy. The clique I was from, we had everybody against us, at least in the norteño side. And it was just back and forth, back and forth. I'm not going to say that we were getting the upper hand and they were getting the upper hand, but at the end of the game, at the end of the day, they were they were actually, at this certain time, they were actually getting the better of us, because just in the time lapse of 6 months, they had taken out two of my homeboys, and this was my homeboy. My homeboy, he was a second generation from my neighborhood, and he was always in the hood. My neighborhood, you go in one way and you come out the same way. It's a dead end. So he was in the neighborhood walking with his wife or girl, and he had his infant son. Now, usually, me personally, I would have never done that, knowing how hot the neighborhood was. But everybody has the right to do with their kids as please. But anyways, he had him on the stroller, pushing him, and you know, los contrarios went in there, and usually when they went up in my neighborhood, it was for one thing and one thing only. So they went all the way in, they flipped, came back the same way, and right when they got up to where my homeboy was at and his girl, they started letting out. They hit my homeboy, they hit the girl, but what really matters here is they ended up hitting the infant, and the infant didn't ended up dying, and throughout this, my homeboy, broken hearted or whatever you want to say, he still held his tongue, He basically did what he was supposed to, and after he recovered, then he went and took care of what he needed to take care of, I'm not gonna put the angle where it came from, but he went out there, needless to say, and he did his thing. In the midst of him doing his thing, he actually gets busted for it, and it's a big case, so he ended up picking a L. Now, as I stated before in backed up recordings, at this time, Güero and Mosca were actually in the town. They were trying to poke around the town. So, in the midst of things, homeboy, he gets in good with Mosca. And Güero, I don't really know which avenue he took to reach Mosca, but he ended up reaching Moscow to the point where he wasn't in that sense of running things, but he had that permission open wherever he landed to make feria and send it directly to the Pili, and of what I heard, he was making good feria. It was just he was a knucklehead in that aspect that when you're making feria, if you're under a Pili, the number one objective is to keep that pipeline open and keep making the feria. Something uprises and you know, you're to look for someone to handle it. You just can't stop that pipeline though. Because certain pilis they trip on that. That's the main thing they trip. You got to keep their presence on the yarda and keep bringing in the feria. But this was an individual that had hate, had a lot of hate in his heart, and rightfully so. I can't even put myself in that situation where they take out your son and then you go handle your business. You pick up an L, and once you hit the system, you know, eventually you're walking amongst them, and it's not like the streets. It's where everybody has that misconception that well, at least us, from up north, we always say, we're on the streets. My enemy was on the streets, or my enemy was inside, which it ain't the case. And we might be, two different ranflas, but at the end of the day, you're gonna follow rules and regulation. It ain't like the streets where on site. You have to put up with them walking amongst us as us walking amongst them. So this occurred for a while, something uprising. He always had that chip on his shoulder, as a lot of us do it. When you hit the system, that we're from up north, so things have to be directed in a different angle, which is not the case. But needless to say, it's what a lot of upstate homies feel. And anyways, dispensing, I got off track. Within time, he ended up going to high desert for a little bit, and something happened up there. I'm not sure if it was a riot, and then he ended up from there getting a 128D and getting transferred to Solano. In Solano, there was not gonna say a misunderstanding. It was just one of those them power trips, that goes both ways. For example, in Solano, what always got the yard up amongst us was that when there was a lot of norteños, it was always, you vatos can't take off your shirt, you guys can't flash your tacas, and it was like, you know, they can't run our program, you know, it was that was the main cause of why it always went up, which I believe this was the case, mainly because my homeboy, well, he had 707 Bay Area, and it was just not gonna say hate, but it's understandable, where they have a stronger grudge against that. But anyways, this happened, so they they set up a plan where there was very little homies on the yard, so they set up a plan where they were gonna hit, and they were gonna hit them good. So at this time, I'm already in the shoe when this occurred, and basically what they did in the chow hall was five camaradas. It was they ended up pinning a norteño down to a table, and homeboy jumped on him, and he started going to town. I don't want to get graphic, but it got really ugly. He really went out there like with hate, which again is what he felt, and it's understandable, because of his baby. But after this, he went back to the hole, and then from there They ended up giving him his respectful shoot term, and he ended up hitting Corcoran. Now at this time, Corcoran still had the concrete yards, the group yards. So he was programming, everything was feeding me, and just out of nowhere from left field, you know, they whacked him. They ended up hitting him, and they got him pretty bad, as I understood the first time, and he ended up going back there, and he held his tongue. He healed up, and then when it came back around, he signed that waiver to go back out, trying to figure out what was going on. And his head was, maybe because I put this on pause, homeboy had me send me a message to get right, right? But that wasn't the case. Mosca had order two. He's not to walk amongst us no more. He's no good. He's taking space. Remove him from the program. Which he went out there and they did. They whacked him again, and he understood it was time for him, to take that walk. And my question is, were his sacrifices met at the end of the day? Were they worth it? This is a man that on the streets for his respectful, for whatever reason, lost his wife, got his infant son killed, did what he did, caught double life plus 100 something, went in the system, started programming the right way. It's just, he had a lot of anger, but he was maintaining that anger within the guidelines. Just a certain individual just felt, you were to sit back and allow someone else to do the hot list. You're messing up with my feria. You're messing up with you're messing up what belongs to me in their eyes, right? And gets upset about it. But you gotta take into consideration that in Solano there wasn't that many camaradas to even take other people into consideration. It was we all have to hoop bang as a ranfla, right? So again, everything repeats itself. There's an individual trying to do everything right, thinking everything's right, and it just didn't please one man that can dictate another man's program, status, what takes to be a righteous sureño. It's sacrifices ain't worth it. You attempt to lose everything, and for what? To go in there and just have another man get upset, and or while he pulls up his zipper, he accidentally hits some things, and he has to let out his anger towards somebody, so they're buena camarada. I really think our raza is worth a lot more. And I'm sorry, I include myself as a habit, but camaradas, period. There's I seen a lot of people speak about, if the Emmett weren't around, there would be chaos. No, there weren't. There weren't be. Just really sit down, analyze the situation from every angle, and it has already been done by numerous neighborhoods. There hasn't been chaos in their neighborhood. So, it's how the mind plays tricks on everything. Looking for an excuses. There's always 1,000 excuses on why not to do something. But at the end of the day, you're under a Tecatos program that is gonna wake up one day and maybe gets mad about something, and I feel like poking it over here and having my way over here just to show that I'm here. And what that means, the camaradas are gonna fall. Now the reason I put this story out there is for all those on the streets thinking about making those sacrifices to come and please a man to earn their stripes. There is never pleasing these people and earning them stripes. If you're not one of them, then sadly to say, because I was one of them, for a lot of years, you're just on borrowed space till this man decides that you just don't have that backup for you to be in that space, and he wants to try new territory or new people. It is why I always put out in my message, value yourself, value what you have. I do understand that as Mexicanos, Latinos, Chicanos, as coming from the ghetto projects, whatever you want to put it, we throw we go through a lot of struggles, parent wise, school wise. I don't know. There's a lot of different struggles, but a smart man is the one that can look from the outside in and be like, man, look at this, look at this. It repeats itself time and time again. Now, I'm not saying my message is correct, but a little percentage of my message can be, but there's 1,000 messages. So take a little bit from everyone and make it your own message to maintain right, to do something for yourself, to value your loved ones, your family, those that you sacrifice for, and they're gonna respond correctly. Those are the only ones that you're not a throwaway person. Because here's this individual I'm speaking about, you know, it's gonna do a life sentence now on that side. Amongst, I couldn't even tell you. All I know about that side is what I see and hear. I haven't been there, but I can imagine, when you lose your kid for the sureño causa, when you're doing things and you hoop bang for the causa correctly, and next thing you know, you get thrown over there where nothing is worth it, and if you run across anybody else from the causa, you're gonna get moved on. How do you think you feel sitting on that side? So just be smart. Just think about what everybody puts out there. Value yourself. You can't go wrong, being true to wanting something good for yourself. The best thing of coming from the ghetto is taking the proper steps to get out of that lifestyle, out of that ghetto. You know, that's something to be proud of. Being locked up for life, pleasing a grown man that all he thinks about is money and drugs. Ain't nothing to be proud of that. You're gonna suffer and suffer and suffer and take it. You just got no other choice once you're there, so prevent it. But anyways, I just thought I'd share with you guys this story. I know I had already talked about Mosca. I wasn't really gonna put this camarada story out there, cause for respect. He's one of the a lot that I think lost a lot, but since it involved his son, I didn't want to put it out there. It's why I'm keeping his name out. And now I ain't throwing dirt at norteños, not one. On the streets is game banging. Yeah, I'm not saying it's right, but it happened and it happens. So please don't take it as so. It's just homeboy story. Not that I would just share with you guys. At the end of the day, my message has been the same from day one. I'm not asking you to nothing out the norm. Not even to hear me out completely. Just pay attention and take what fits in your life, but also pay attention to everybody else that's spreading this message and smart up for yourself and for your loved ones. That's it. But anyways, mi gente, I just thought I would touch in with you guys this afternoon and just to show you a little more glimpse on how scandalous this lifestyle can be, you know. There is no winning, no end goal. It's just facts, you know. But con esto dicho, les agradezco mucho su tiempo. Stay true to yourself, loyal to your loved ones, and gracias por todo.